Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Dinesh and you're watching Indie Acres. This is going to be my first session in the Permaculture Basics series. And as mentioned in my earlier introduction video, this series of sessions will be exclusively focusing on the foundational thoughts that led to the evolution of permaculture. So once again, briefly, permaculture is a design science founded by Bill Mollison and David Holmgren. It is intended to recreate systems that are far more efficient than the existing ones, and be it food production, energy systems, water, or any other systems for that matter, designed using permaculture methods can deliver much more than just double or triple the productivity of conventional systems. And now, by adopting the principles of nature, permaculture breaks the myth of scarcity and helps us to cultivate abundant thinking, which in simple words, the core of permaculture teaches us how to lead a happy, healthy, and comfortable life without causing harm to other human beings and to the natural world. And now, no matter wherever you are on this planet and whatever may be the line of work you are into, you can learn and practice permaculture to be self-sufficient and live in peace. It's not basically any rocket science. Permaculture just borrows a few natural principles from various disciplines, ranging from physical and biological sciences to social and psychological sciences. So any person from any background or from any discipline can easily understand this way of life. So that's a little about permaculture, and I have made a video last week in which I have detailed much about permaculture and more importantly my agenda in making this course, where I have explained in detail how am I planning to conduct this course and other information related to the structure and delivery of this particular course. If you have not watched that video, I will leave a link to that in the description below, so you can take a look at it for better understanding on how this course is going to be. So without any further delay, I would like to dive right into today's topic. The first topic in this Permaculture Basics series: the true source of human well-being. And one more thing, in this learning process we will put forth few basic questions and try finding answers to them. So let's get into it. Okay, now I would go back a little into the history and dig up some facts to give a context to few things that we are going to discuss in this session, right? Now, our planet Earth, on which we are living today, has formed sometime around 4.5 billion years ago. Now, if we take this piece of line as the timeline of Earth and mark this end of it at day 0 and this end as today, that's in 2020, the appearance of the first life form can be marked somewhere here, and that is 3.5 billion years ago. So the life first time appeared on this planet 3.5 billion years ago. Now, on this timeline of Earth, modern human beings, that's us. And now I'm not talking about prehistoric people or ancient cave people. I'm referring to modern humans. So these modern humans evolved on this planet somewhere at this point, and that's sometime around 2.5 lakh years ago. Now in this time, that's between the first life and modern human beings, there had been several life forms living on this planet. Several species of plants, animals, birds, and other life forms were living on this planet. So that makes us, the humans, a pretty new species on this planet. So now, having said that, if we take a modern human being, it could be you, me, or anyone else for that matter. This modern human being, that's us, if we observe in any given day, from the time we wake up in the morning and till the time we go to bed at night, we interact with a lot of things. So for any human being to function normally in any given society, he or she interacts with many different things. That could be objects or persons or even with ideas. For example, we wake up in the morning, brush our teeth, and then does some workouts, and then spend some time with the family. You drive a car, go to work, interact with some friends and colleagues, eat food, drink water, spend money. So we use electricity, we use gasoline, and many other different things. We interact with many different things in any given day, right? So in all these actions, if you see, we consciously interact with all these things, resources, people, and ideas to serve ultimately one single purpose, one and only one single purpose. That's for our well-being. All our actions are focused to serve this one purpose. That's the human well-being. So humans, in all their actions, consciously seek the well-being of themselves and the well-being of those he or she love and care. And we always do things and act to keep ourselves comfortable, happy, and healthy. And that's nothing but the well-being. So to give this analysis a meaningful order, we can classify all these things, all these people and ideas with which we interact into three broad categories or three components. We can fit everything that we do for our well-being into three broad components. Here I want to use the analogy of a perfectly running car. If you think of a perfectly running car, it comes with several different components. It has this engine and a transmission system, brake system, tires, lights, and many other different components, right? Now all these components integrated in a specific order makes us a car, right? And now the well-being of a car, I mean the health of this car, depends on the health of its components. We need all these components working in a perfect order, in a perfect condition, and it's only then we can call it a perfectly running car, right? So similarly, the well-being of human beings depends on the availability and health of these three major components. So what are those necessities that keep us comfortable, happy and healthy in any given state of environment? So the first component of today's modern human well-being can be called the basic material needs, or we can call them the basic necessities of human life. This component is the combination of several basic needs such as food, clean water, clean air, shelter, clothing, energy, safety and security. Now, these first three things, food, air and water, there is no doubt that we need them for survival. And now to cater these rest of the needs like shelter, clothing, energy, safety and security, we need timber, fossil fuels for energy, metals to make tools, etc., and fiber for clothing. We can add more things to this list, but these are the basic things that any modern human being will look for in first place in any given state of environment, right? In today's world, there is no way for us to exist without these material needs. And now, you may be a person living off the grid, sacrificing the comforts offered by modern civilization, but along with food, water and air, you still need timber, metals and fiber for shelter, energy, clothing, safety and security against man-made and natural disasters. So this component of human well-being is the first priority for any person. Now, after taking care of one's basic material needs, the second component of human well-being is sociology and social relationships. We all have families, we have children, parents, relatives, friends, colleagues, and other people around us with whom we interact for our social well-being. And if you are a spiritual person, you can factor in God here, right? So now all these social elements takes care of our social well-being. Human social relations are just like foundations to human societies, and hence we call ourselves the social beings. So now once you are self-sufficient with all the basic needs and socially active, the third aspect that any human being will be up to is psychological well-being, right? It's the mental well-being. Every human being in a society naturally has this tendency to fulfill the psychological needs. So here we have equal opportunity to resources, fair share, self-identity, self-respect, social acceptance, opportunity to compete and opportunity to achieve something in life. And now this psychological tendency may vary from person to person and in degrees, but every human being in any given society naturally will have these cravings for psychological well-being, right? And that level or degree depends on several other social and economic factors. We'll see more about those factors in the upcoming sessions. So for now, these are the three major components of human well-being. One is basic material needs, followed by social relationships, which then are followed by psychological well-being. And now, if you observe, there is a natural order in this set of components. There is an increasing order in these human demands. If you take a person, his or her first priority lies in serving the basic needs of life. For example, myself, if I don't have access to enough of these basic needs, will I be able to raise a family? Which, when I can't afford to, will I be psychologically sound? And I'm talking here in a general sense. Just imagine if you don't have enough to eat, if you don't have clothes to put on, or even if you can't afford for a house to live in, will you be able to maintain a healthy social life? That's not possible. And I remember Karl Marx once said, all human relations are economic relationships, right? So that may not be completely true, but yes, there is some truth to it, right? So if you have any views on this idea, please feel free to post in the comment section, and I really wanted to know what you think about this Marxist idea, right? So now once you serve both these first two components, then you'll be left with enough capacity to think about your psychological needs. And that's quite obvious, because only when you and your social counterparts have access to enough basic needs, you will think about sharing and allowing others to get into the picture, right? You will be socially accepted, or will be given equal opportunity to resources and compete, and ultimately gives you an opportunity to achieve whatever you want in your life. In simple words, firstly, we take care of ourselves and then care other people around us, and that serves our mental well-being, right? So this is the increasing order in which human well-being is achieved. Be it you, me, or anyone else for that matter, is required to follow this order of actions to meet the purpose of human well-being. This is how we behave in any given state of environment. So now we have answered the first question. So in simple words, we need to serve these three demands in order to be comfortable, happy, and healthy. So now the question is, what is the source of all those things that keep us comfortable, happy, and healthy? That's the second question, right? The answer to this question, most of us would think or assume, is money. In present day modern civilization, it's only when you have enough money in your pockets you will be able to access all your needs, right? I mean, how do we get our food, right? We buy it from a local store, or get it from McDonald's and places like that, right? So how do we get access to clean water? We buy packaged water or pay governments to access it. How do we get access to clean air? And for now, air is free, but it's not clean, and I'm very sure that in the near future we'll be buying clean air packaged in cylinders, right? So how do we get access to shelter? We buy it or lease a house. How do we get access to our energy needs? We buy it at gas stations or pay authorities or governments to access the electricity, right? And the same thing applies to all other things we need, be it timber, fiber, metals, or anything for that matter can be accessed only when you have enough money. In the current state of the world, we can't imagine a civilization or society that's devoid of money. And the same thought applies to social and psychological well-being. Right? Good social relationships are only possible when you have economic stability. And only when you have enough money, you will be socially acceptable and will be given an opportunity to grow in the society. So the answer for our second question appears to be money. But in fact, that's not true. Because here we are talking about the source. But money only facilitates the trade. It only acts as a medium of exchange. But the real source of our well-being is the planet Earth. As I mentioned earlier, modern human beings have been living on this planet for close to 250,000 years, right? And roughly, and money has been invented just 5 to 10,000 years ago. So there is no money in most of the human history, and still they managed to access all the human needs directly from the planet, directly from the natural world. So for that matter, the needs of all life forms that live today on this planet are catered by the planet and its natural ecosystems. And humans are no different. We are just one amongst other living things on this planet. And if we look at human history and go back to ancient human societies, people during those times used to be a part of these natural ecosystems. Now, an ecosystem by definition is nothing but a natural biological system where both living and non-living things coexist and interact with each other to create a self-regulating natural system. Our planet is nothing but a combination of several different ecosystems. Each of these individual ecosystems makes our planet. For example, forests. A forest is an ecosystem. A forest is a natural ecosystem. In a forest, we see these living things such as trees, plants, animals, birds, humans, and other small and big life forms interacting with non-living things such as dirt, air, land, humidity, temperature, etc. So all these living and non-living things and their interactions makes an ecosystem. Altogether, with their actions working upon each other, creates these forests. Now we'll be discussing more about ecosystems, their types and their services in our next session. So for now, humans are no different. We used to be part of these ecosystems. We used to hunt and gather our resources just like any other animals does today, right? Most of the human history had been involved in hunting and gathering. People back then used to live and work with the nature to be self-sufficient. They believed in mutual relationship. They not only took things from the nature but also gave back. And now nature is very generous. It always appreciates this behavior of mutual relationship. It always produces more than sufficient and thereby cater all the demands of its dependents, who in turn contributes to the well-being of the nature. Let's see what that means, right? Let's look at an example to understand the behavior of natural ecosystems. So just take any tree, any big tree. Let's say this is a mango tree. It has this big canopy, a trunk, big roots that sometimes extend up to few meters into the ground. Now, if you think of the requirements of this tree, every tree needs few basic resources for its survival and good health, right? So the first thing that a tree needs is sunlight, right? And the second requirement is CO2, carbon dioxide. This resource is naturally present in the air. And thirdly, trees need water and minerals such as phosphorus, sulfur, etc. to maintain its physiology and health. And now trees pulls the water and minerals from the ground below it through its roots, right? These roots go deep into the ground and mines all these resources, right? Now trees, using these three resources, sunlight, carbon dioxide, water and minerals, performs a process called photosynthesis. This is a process to synthesize its own food or energy source. It's nothing but carbohydrates. And it uses this food to build its own body parts such as leaves, stems, branches, trunk and roots, and also to maintain its health. So a part of its food is used to develop its body parts, and the leftover energy in the form of sugars is stored in the fruits, right? And now if we observe and try to analyze the availability of these resources, the first resource, sunlight. Sunlight is indefinitely available from the sun. So the tree has no challenge in availing this resource. And the second one is carbon dioxide, which is freely available in the air. So there is no problem here, right? And the third resource is water and minerals. Now, this water and minerals are not indefinitely available in the nature. And mainly during dry periods, the availability of water is a problem. And also these minerals such as phosphorus, sulfur, etc., they are not uniformly available in the soils. So a tree sometimes had to face this challenge of non-availability of these particular resources, water and minerals. So to help this condition, trees, mostly woody plants and trees, had adopted this beautiful and brilliant mechanism. So let's try to understand this mechanism, right? So in nature, we have this fungal species called mycorrhizal fungi. It's a fungal species, a living organism that has this long thread-like structures called fungal hyphae, right? These are called hyphae. These are very long thread-like structures, and often these structures extend to very long distances ranging from few meters to few miles, right? This fungal species basically lives in the soil and feeds on sugars and carbohydrates for its energy needs and survival. So it needs sugars, it needs carbohydrates to survive. So this organism needs sugars for its survival and health, and often the non-availability of these sugars makes it hard for this organism to survive. So now this tree here makes a deal with this fungal species, right? It's like a contract. So the tree says, okay, look, fungal buddy, let's make a deal. I see that you are facing this problem in getting your food. And now you have these long hyphae using which you can transport water and minerals that I need. So I will give you some of my sugars and you help me get that water and minerals that I need. Now, this fungal species creates its residence at the root zone of this tree, right? It creates a residence, its residence at this root zone, and then starts to transport water and minerals needed for the tree. And in return, this tree produces the sugars needed by the fungal species. This tree produces these sugary fluid-like substances which we call exudates, tree exudates, on which the fungal species feeds on. So in this mechanism, there is a mutual benefit, a mutual relationship where both these living things coexist and support each other for their well-being. How brilliant is it? Right? Now, if we observe, it's not only just these two living things present in this particular ecosystem. When this tree produces its fruits, it attracts other living things too. Animals such as monkeys, right? Squirrels and mice, and even birds consumes these fruits. Birds will build their nests in these branches. Animals will take rest in this shade, and some animals such as mice and squirrels makes these burrows around this tree and lives here, right? And also when this tree drops its leaves and tree litter and fruits on the ground, that again attracts other insects, small and big soil organisms. So all these little insects and soil organisms consumes on this tree litter, right? So this tree is not only producing food for other living beings, but also providing shelter to all these birds, animals and insects, right? Now these residents defecate here, right? When you eat, you need to defecate, right? So by leaving their feces on the ground around this tree zone, and when that gets decomposed, it adds nutrients to the soil. So it's in this process the nutrients are getting replenished, right? So these animals, birds and insects living here are not only taking but also giving it back to the nature. So that's a complete cycle, right? So now this whole system is now a self-regulating, resilient and natural ecosystem. This is a natural ecosystem, right? All those living and non-living things coexist and act upon each other. Everything in this system is abundant. It doesn't need external forces. It doesn't need anyone from outside giving these man-made fertilizers. It doesn't need a manual irrigation, right? So back then, during our prehistoric times, in the hunter-gatherer societies, humans used to be a part of this system. We took whatever we need from the nature and gave it back in the form of human waste. But today, we are living in cities and towns far away from these natural ecosystems. But one thing hasn't changed. We are still taking it from the nature, right? but not returning it back. We are depositing and storing this nutrient waste and other biological waste in our concrete septic tanks, right? In our homes. Now here, this natural ecosystem is sustainable only because the aspects of creation and consumption are in balance. So if you see in this ecosystem, something is being created and the same is being consumed, right? So there is a balance. These things are being recycled and reused here. But in man-made systems today, consumption is dominating creation, which in turn leads to scarcity. Just imagine if you have people consuming more and producing less, what will it lead to? It creates scarcity. And that's all over the place in today's modern human civilizations. So the point is, the source to all human needs is the planet and its natural ecosystems. Back then, we used to be a part of that nature and harvested things that are necessary for our well-being. But today, with the population we have, we may not be able to live and coexist with natural ecosystems, but we can create systems at our own backyards, at our own gardens and in our farms that mimic or copy those natural ecosystems. We can create a natural ecosystem in our own garden and work with it. This system that we have gone through can be designed in our farms and gardens. And permaculture teaches us how to do that. Working with nature is one of the important foundational thoughts of permaculture. It teaches us how to design systems that work just like natural ecosystems. So, by and large, we have 5 important points to take home from this session. Firstly, all human actions are directed towards human well-being. Secondly, there are 3 components to human well-being. The first being basic material needs, followed by social relationships, followed by psychological needs, right? And thirdly, the source to all these 3 components of human well-being is not money, but the planet and its natural ecosystems. And lastly, permaculture helps us design and recreate those natural ecosystems in our gardens, in our farms and backyards, and even in small spaces as little as a balcony. Right. So I will leave it here. In this session, we have managed to answer a couple of questions, basic questions in the most logical and rational way possible. So in the next video, in the next session, I'll be building on what is left here. We'll be talking more and in detail about ecosystems, their types, and the services they offer for our well-being. So that's it for today. And if you have anything to ask or thoughts to share with the community, please feel free to post them in the comment section. And you can also write to us at indieacres19@gmail.com. So thank you for tuning in. I'm Dinesh and you're watching Indie Acres.